product of our time and place. So he's brought up a certain way. Just because you have this awakening doesn't mean you're not going to blow it all the time. So yeah, he was in this time and place where if a beautiful court woman came to you and said, I want to study in your monastery, there were women's temples, and she had actually practiced in the women's temples, but the women's temples, they weren't as serious. And this has been true until very recently in Buddhism, that not always, but often the women's temples, they didn't have the same access to like really strong practice or sutra study, or a lot of things. Like maybe they would just chant, or maybe they would just do helpful things in the village or something like that, but they didn't have this really hard training that she wanted. I should say that in Korea there's a women's temple where I've been, and I think maybe Nancy, you've been there too, maybe Eileen, you've been there, where the women do is it a 3-year kyolche or a 1-year kyolche? I forget. 3 years, yeah. They do a kyolche for 3 years. 3 years. They sit in kyolche. That is called hard training, right? We do 3 months and we think we're pretty cool, but they do 3 years. So I'm not saying women are not capable of strong practice, Lord knows. But at that time, the in Japan, the possibility of having strong training in a women's temple, it just didn't exist. And so she wanted to practice in a men's temple. But this guy, he's thinking, oh my God, my monks will be filled with lust and they won't be good monks. And that's all he's thinking about. He didn't trust his monks. It's the idea. A woman walks into a building and all the monks, they get erections or something like that. And boing, and so this kind of, cultural kind of, everyone has this kind of cultural blindness one way or another. Every culture has it. It just expresses itself differently. So yeah, so this guy's a product of his culture. It's not like you wake up and, then, you're free of all that. The Korean tradition is really great because in the Korean tradition, coming from Chinul, Chinul had 4 great awakenings, and every one of them took place in a library, which I really love. It's not, like he stumbles on the path and his foot hits a rock and then he wakes up, or he hears the temple bell in a distance and he wakes up, or he sees 2 people fighting in the street and he wakes up. No, he wakes up by opening a book in a library. And he had 4 big awakenings like this. And anyway, so Chinul's big thing, which was very different from the Chinese teaching of the time. Chinul was, I think, 11th century. So Chinul's big thing was waking up. The experience of waking up is a signal that you have to practice even harder. So it's not like you practice and practice and practice and then kensho and you wake up and everything's fabulous. No, it's not that. It's like you practice and you wake up, and then, oh my God, I have to practice more. And you practice and practice and practice, and then you have another awakening. Whoa, I have to practice more. So the idea is you have to practice, and he's very explicit about this. You have to keep practicing because you still have karma. And you have to cut through this karma. And the experience of awakening is not going to cut through that karma. So that's Chinul's teaching. And that's Korean tradition. And that explains why this Zen master, seeing this beautiful woman, would not let her in the monastery. Because, yeah, he had many awakenings probably, but he still had karma. And we all still have karma. And nobody is ever done. That's very important. No one is ever done. So thank you very much for your question. Are there any other questions?